Hi, everyone. So, welcome to the special masterclass discussion for the ICAG strategic case study, November 2025 pre-scene discussion. This discussion is meant to help us walk through the entire things that we need to understand when it comes to dealing with the strategic case study examination, the key issues that you have to pay attention to put yourself in the position to go into the exam hall, write the exam with confidence, and most importantly, pass the examination. And I would want to say that it's important you really stay with me carefully as we go through the discussion, because my discussion is going to be divided into three major segments. The first segment is going to look at the syllabus. The reason is because we must start from the end with the end in mind. In other words, it is not about your pre-scene analysis. The chief examiner doesn't care about your analysis of the pre-scene. It's about what is in the syllabus. So the first question we want to ask ourselves is, what are the things in the syllabus? What are in the syllabus that we need to know about? Then, how does the pre-scene tie into each of the segments of the syllabus so that we know the areas that we have to optimize on and expect questions on as we are going into the exam hall? So that is the first part of our discussion. Going back to the syllabus, looking at the key segments of the syllabus, how the pre-scene and the case study fits into the various aspects of the syllabus, because that is what is important. Again, the examiner doesn't care about your analysis of the pre-scene. It is about what is in the syllabus. So that's the first part of my discussion. Once we walk through the various things that we need to understand when it comes to the syllabus, then we go to the second part of the discussion where we will contextualize. So we're going to be looking at the pre-scene and look at the various models, concepts, discussions, and most importantly, how we have to present ourselves up and discuss the case. Then the third aspect of my discussion is to bring the discussion home with some practice questions and the few issues that we need to look out for as we go into the exam hall. So those are the three thematic areas that we need to understand that we're going to be trying to go through during this strategic case study pre-scene masterclass today as well as tomorrow as we continue with the discussion. So let me bring up my screen quickly and let's get excited into the discussion. So in going into the discussion, there are a few things that we have to be mindful of. So November 2025 examination, ICAG, strategic case study, the pre-scene information. So let's go first into the syllabus, because we need to start with the end in mind. And so what are the things in the syllabus? Because the examiner is going to be bringing questions from the various aspects of the syllabus based on what you are seeing in the pre-scene and some things that are not even in the pre-scene at all, but is in the syllabus that we must know about. The first part of our syllabus is going to be the strategic analysis part. Strategic analysis. This is covering 20% of the syllabus. In other words, from this aspect of the syllabus, you're going to be having at least 20 marks question waiting for you in the exam hall. Key question: what are the few issues or what are the key issues that we need to understand in this first aspect of the syllabus with a 20% weighing? Number one is evaluating the strategic landscape of the organization. So if we are evaluating the strategic landscape of the organization, what are some of the things there? Number one is the stakeholder analysis. So this is where you're going to be using the Mendello metrics to identify the key stakeholders of the organization and then their strengths, interest, or influence on our organization. And so in the realms of that, if you look at our pre-scene, EWL, who are the key stakeholders of EWL? What are their interest, power, authority, or influence on EWL? We must know about that. Strategic analysis. Two is the organizational culture. From the pre-scene, as we have read, have an understanding of the entity, what is their culture within the organization? And we're going to be coming back to that because there are various types of culture that we need to know about. The handy's cultural types and the various significance of the cultural types that are available. 3 is risk appetite. Understanding the issue about the risks that the entity may be exposed to. Then the 4th area under that first segment is ethics and corporate social responsibility. Yes, in our case study, there are a lot of ethical issues that we're going to be getting into as we go to the second part of our discussion. And there are a couple of corporate social responsibility issues as well there, because we see the organizations to be socially and environmentally responsible. All those discussions will come under the 20% weighing. First aspect, evaluating the strategic landscape. Then we come to the second part of that area, and that is the external environmental analysis. So in the external environment, this is where a couple of models will be starting to come to town. So we want to analyze the macro environment. Okay, then we need a pistol framework. We analyze the macro environment. We'll get into all these in a moment. The second thing is the Porter's 5 forces, analyzing the nature of competitiveness and the attractiveness of the industry within which our company is operating. So those will be the issue about the external environmental assessment. Then we come to the third thing, and that is the internal capacity and position. And this is where we are talking about issues in respect of resource review, core competence analysis, SWOT analysis, and then gap analysis. So my question will be to you will be, have you prepared SWOT analysis? Because it's a usual thing. Because when the examiner presents us with a question, and the question is, analyze the strategic capacity of the entity. Analyzing the strategic capacity of the entity is what the entity can do, the resources available at the disposal of the entity that the entity can use to gain sustainable competitive advantage. And so in that realm, answering question about strategic capacity, it means that we are going to be looking at the strength of the organization, and we'll get into this in a moment, and then the weaknesses that the entity is exposed to. That's the second thing that we must understand as well. Then we can be asked to analyze the strategic position of the entity. The question about strategic position of the entity, we can answer that question by a combination of a number of models, the SWOT analysis, the pistol framework, the Porter's 5 forces. These 3 models together with thought principles from them will help us to analyze the strategic position of the entity. Then certainly we come to the last part, which is the influence of technology. In our question, EWS, the pre-scene, there are a lot of technological advancements available, and there are some risks associated with those technological advancements. So the concept of big data, data analytics, artificial intelligence, and certainly cybersecurity issues are all issues that we need to understand when it comes to that first aspect of our syllabus. So the examiner is going to be coming for us with at least a 20 marks question on what we refer to as strategic analysis. At least 20 marks. And that could come from anywhere. It could be on evaluating the strategic landscape. It could be on the external environmental assessment or internal capacity with some technology issues. One of those things will be in the exam hall, done deal, waiting for us for at least 20 marks. Then we come to the second part of the syllabus, and that is strategic choice. Because once we analyze the environment we are in, the resources we have at our disposal, and the various other things, now there will be alternative choices available, or alternatives available that we must choose from. And so this is 15% of the syllabus. So there is a question waiting for us. There are a number of questions waiting for us in the exam, or maybe A, B, C, or AI, AII. 15% that will be on strategic choice. Big question is, what are the thematic areas under strategic choice that we need to know about? The first one is the corporate and business level strategies. Because you know that when it comes to the levels of strategy, we have the corporate strategies, the business strategies, and then the functional strategies. So the business and corporate level strategies, what are we talking about? This is where issues about unsolved growth metrics comes in, issues about BCG metrics for looking at the portfolio that a company is having. Again, in the context of our pre-scene, we see that the entity has been adopting the various strategies under the unsolved growth metrics. Market penetration, market development, product development, and some level of even diversification. So how can we contextualize that? Then the Boston Consulting Group metrics to manage diverse business units. So product portfolio management. Our company is having many portfolio or many businesses that they are doing. How do we manage that? 2, competitive business strategies like the Porter's generic strategies, the Bowman's strategic clock. Then 3 is the issue about corporate parenting strategies. That is a relationship that exists between the head office and its subsidiaries or strategic business units, SBUs. So what are the various corporate parenting styles? What are the various issues we need to understand about acquisition and merger arrangement using the Ashridge portfolio display? Then we come to methods of strategy development, and this is where we are looking at growing either organically or growing through acquisition and mergers, and talking about issues in respect of collaboration approach or collaborative approaches. So that's the second part of this 15 marks area. Then we come to the third part of the 15 marks area, and that is international strategy. Remember, in the context of our pre-scene, our company is seeking to go global. They are seeking to operate or open up an operation in Nigeria, and they are seeking to also, going into the future, open up operations in other sub-Sahara or other countries in the sub-Sahara region. So there are international strategies that we have to be mindful of. So drivers of globalization, models for entering into international markets. If you remember in the pre-scene document, they are going to Nigeria and they want to open a factory there. But there are different ways of entering the market without necessarily having to establish a factory there. So we must understand some of those things: exporting, licenses, and then joint venture arrangement. So international strategies, that is also forming part of that 15 marks area about strategic choice. Then we come to the last one, and that is the international or integration and responsive framework. Very important. So now that our company is seeking to go international, there is a way they are going to Nigeria. If you have read the pre-scene well, they said that when they open the factory in Nigeria, they will first use the Ghanaian employees to be in the roles because of expertise and familiarity to the industry. So that means they are going for a certain management orientation, ethnocentric management orientation, taking the values of Ghana into Nigeria. There are advantages and disadvantages of that. Alternatively, we can talk about the polycentric. There are advantages and disadvantages of that. So those things coming together give us the second aspect of our syllabus, 50 marks. So there is a minimum of 50-mark question waiting for us in the exam hall. That will be a mixture of those business level strategies and models, then strategy development, and then international strategy. Either one or two of these segments, we will have questions coming in the exam hall for the 15 marks minimum. And that's the second part of our syllabus. The third segment of our syllabus is strategy into action. So now that they want to do market development, taking their products to another market, going to Nigeria, how do they implement the strategy successfully? That is strategy implementation. That's quite a significant portion of our syllabus and will take a center stage in the exam hall because it has a weighing of 25%. So at least we're going to have 25 marks question coming in from strategy into action that we need to know about. So at least 20 marks coming in the exam hall in respect of strategy into action. And that is very important there that we need to know about. So what are the thematic issues here when we talk about the strategy into action, implementing the strategy that we have selected? The first one is the framework and business plans. Now, if you pay attention closely, in the pre-scene document, they want to go to Nigeria. They have plan of establishing factory. They will need funding. They have plan of opening a factory in Kumasi. They will need funding. Now, for that to be successful, you will need a business plan. So we don't know. In the exam hall, there could be additional information where the examiner will require us, as part of a 10 marks question area, in the 25 marks area for strategy into action, the examiner may ask us to prepare a business plan. It could be a full business plan preparation or an extract of the business plan. And you must know the various thematic issues that must be included in a business plan. It is in the syllabus. We must know about it. Under that, we talk about the McKinsey 7S framework, because when you are implementing the strategies, the McKinsey 7S framework is a crucial thing that we need to look at there. Not only that, we come to the second area, monitoring and performance management. But before I go there, let me quickly touch on this. The plan will translate the chosen strategy initiative into resource requirements across key functions. So performance management, marketing and brand management, business risk management, information technology, human resource. If you read the pre-scene well, there are a couple of issues that this company is having. And we'll get into some of them as we get deeper, but you must understand the connection in the various aspects of the syllabus. Number one, they don't have any formalized HR issues in place. People even get appointments or get jobs without knowing their salary coming in. And so there is high labor turnover, but there is a low labor turnover for specialized skills. So human resource management issues can be a question that the examiner will ask us in the exam hall as part of that strategy implementation segment. Not only that, issues about marketing. We read from the pre-scene that the entity doesn't use traditional marketing. All they do is word of mouth, referral, ala. But no business thrives just on referrals. So there has to be various ways, various forms of marketing, especially now that they want to go to Nigeria. If you are going to Nigeria, you can't go and stand before someone in Nigeria and say, oh, guess what? We are the best company in Ghana, so you there come and buy from us. No. There will not be any referral. So it means the entity must design a strategic marketing plan that will help them to create awareness, that will help them to convince people to buy their products, and they must be willing to put some money at the back of this. So again, those are some issues that we identify in the pre-scene. The examiner can bring some questions on them, and that will be tiring into strategy implementation, that 25 marks area in the exam hall. So monitoring and performance measurement, very crucial here, measuring the performance of the entity using key performance indicators. In our pre-scene, we didn't see any financial issues. Does it mean the examiner is not going to be bringing any financial issues? We don't know, because remember, there will be additional information in the exam hall. But performance measurement is an area that we have to look at. So we could be asked to use financial performance indicators, non-financial performance indicators to evaluate the performance of the entity. And that is where we are coming in with the balance scorecard and the various other models for evaluating the performance of the organization. And that is very important there that we need to understand. So that is the 25 marks area. Now, if you look at it carefully, it looks like that 25 marks area, strategy into action, it looks like, although it's 25%, we don't have a lot of issues there. Don't be deceived. Because I've mentioned a lot of issues there when it comes to implementation of the strategy implementation. So there are a lot of issues there that we're going to be seeing in the exam hall that we must understand. Then the fourth area of the syllabus will be financial objectives and strategies. So all the financial issues here, 20%. So whether you like it or not, there is a 20 marks minimum question waiting for you in the exam hall about financial objectives and strategies. It's there. But if you are not careful, per the way the pre-scene is, you will say, oh, there are no financial issues. Again, as I said in my intro, the examiner is not interested in your analysis of the pre-scene. What the examiner is interested in is what is in the syllabus. That's all. So you may read a pre-scene and jump into conclusion that, oh, there are no financial issues. But there is a 20 marks question waiting for you in the exam hall on financial objectives and strategies. So what are the thematic areas that we need to understand here? The first one is aligning financial goals and stakeholder interest. Finding various conflict of interest about this. Using various models like the economic value added or the shareholder value added tool to evaluate financial performance and create value for a company. So we don't know. Maybe in the additional information, we will be having further information provided by the examiner, which will require us to assess the performance of the entity and help to look at the issue about value creation for the shareholders using EVA, economic value added. Oh, I don't know what is EVA. You don't know what is EVA. You did EVA in management accounting, economic value added calculation. It could be there. Second is the key financing decision or financial decisions. You did this also in financial management. So really this 20 marks area is more or less like a revision in the case study. Because everything here, you have done them in other subjects, either financial management, management accounting, or some way, somehow. So what are the key financing decisions? You know them already. Investing decisions. Our company, there are various investing decisions they are seeking to make. The factory they want to open in Kumasi, the factory they want to open in Nigeria, they want to invest into electric vehicles so that it reduces their environmental emission. Those are all investment decisions. The examiner can ask us to go in and analyze whether they should go for it or not. So we could have investment appraisal issues in the exam hall where we must appraise an investment decision that the entity is making, whether using payback period, discounted payback period, accounting rate of return, net present value, or internal rate of return. Then, especially for the vehicles that they want to buy for their delivery, or they want for their delivery, should they lease it or buy it? That's an investment appraisal decision. You did that in financial management. Should they lease or buy it? Which one should be the right option? It's a 5-mark question or 10 marks question that the examiner can throw at you. Then we come to the second one, financing decisions. Financing decision has to do with where we get our money from or get the money from to finance the operations of the organization. So where does the entity get money from to finance the operations of the entity? So we are talking about gearing, we are talking about capital structure, we are talking about dividend policy here. Remember what I said earlier. They want to open a factory in Kumasi. They are going to Nigeria. They want to buy some electric vehicles. Where will they get the money from? What alternative sources of finance are available? So in the short term, the sources of finance available include what? Maybe bank overdraft, trade receivables, short-term loans. Okay, sale of maybe surplus assets. In the short term, we can use that to finance our operations. In the long term, where is the financing issues available? And that is where we are talking about equity finance. Even in equity finance, okay, this company is a private company. Maybe you go to the Ezra and under additional information, now they want to metamorphose into a listed company. Whoa. So if they want to metamorphose, then what are the procedures involved so that they can raise the needed finance for the Nigeria expansion, Kumasi expansion, and other things? So don't just close yourself up based on the pre-scene. Open yourself up based on the structure of the syllabus. And that is something I want to highlight, because many a times when it comes to strategic case study, one of the reasons why the pass rate is always low is because students think it's just about the pre-scene. But you must understand how the pre-scene ties into each of the aspects of the syllabus and what could happen in the exam hall based on the additional information that the examiner is going to be providing. So those are the issues there. Then you come to long-term sources of finance. In the debt finance. What are the advantages and disadvantages? Venture capital finance will be there. What are the advantages and disadvantages? Then Islamic finance is even there, because it's a tool available, it's an instrument available. Okay, maybe someone has introduced them to it. Explain to Mr. Texan and Mrs. Texan how Islamic finance works and some of the models available under Islamic finance. Because they don't want to go to the bank for a loan, they don't want to issue shares, they don't want to be listed on the stock exchange market. Okay, then Islamic finance is an alternative available. What is the concept available? Ijara, what does it mean? And then what are the various models under Islamic finance? Financing. Then even their working capital is an issue. So the concept of working capital management is also an issue here. So when it comes to working capital management, we have the fixed working capital. That must be financed using long-term sources of finance. Then we have fluctuating working capital that must be financed using short-term sources of finance. Then the working capital management approach. All of these are available here. Then the last thing under this financing decision is the treasury and risk management. I think over the last 3 examination diets, almost every examination diet, there is something about treasury. I think so. Apart from last semester, I think so. I will confirm that and tell you about it tomorrow as we continue with the discussion. But treasury is key, because this entity imports. So they are exposed to foreign exchange risk. So if they are exposed to the foreign exchange risk because of the instability in the currency, what are the various ways available to hedge against the exposure? So it tells you that this pre-scene, it's possible that under this 20 marks area financing objective, I wouldn't be surprised if you go there and there is a scenario there and you have to do hedging for the company. Money market hedge, netting off, those methods, forward contract, those calculations, you did them in your financial management class. So you are expected to know them. If you have forgotten them, go back to your notes, review them before you go to the exam hall because it's in the syllabus. Oh, I did an MBA or I did MSc. Go back to your MBA notes. It is there. Go and refer to it. But you got to understand these things in that regard. So these are the issues that we must understand when it comes to that 20 marks area, financial objectives. So if you are paying attention closely so far, you realize that if you read the pre-scene well, every aspect of the syllabus can be found in the pre-scene. So it is not again about your ability to analyze the pre-scene. It's about knowing what is in the syllabus, then using the pre-scene as the base to try to connect yourself up and revise well. And that's my goal here. So I'm not here to tell you, hey, Charlie, hey, Debbie. I'm interested in the syllabus, what is there, and how we can really position ourselves to go past the examination. Then the fifth thing is corporate governance. Yeah. There's a 20 marks question waiting for us in the exam hall on corporate governance, minimum of 20 marks. So when you read the pre-scene, did you see any governance issue? Yes. The board structure, they don't have independent non-executive directors. Decision is made is in the hand of just two people or family people, Mr. and Mrs. Texan and his children. Everything, Mr. Texan is at the helms of affairs for everything. Mrs. Texan is also at the helms of affairs. They are planning that they will leave the business to their children, but there is a succession planning issue. And that is one of the characteristics or deficiencies of many family businesses, succession planning. And classical example is what maybe we are seeing now in the Kantanka automobile, right? Their father had died. And please, I'm not making any big issues about this. I'm just using the scenario to explain pre-scene so you have the understanding. So the man had died. Immediately the man had died, they have said some things have changed, and the young man who has been the CEO of the group of companies is no longer the CEO. He's being referred to as the former CEO. So it means that there is a transition. So the question then is, how are they going to ensure that the legacy of the man, the businesses that have been built, will continue after he is no more now? And that's one of the issues about family-owned businesses. And we are seeing the same thing in this case, that although Mr. and Mrs. Texan are planning to give the business to their children, what if their children are not interested? So succession planning issue is also here. So 20 marks area waiting for us. What are the thematic issues? One is the governance framework in Ghana. Again, the company is a family-owned business, it's a private business, it's not a listed company. That doesn't mean the examiner cannot ask you governance issues. We read in the pre-scene that Mr. Texan claims that governance issues are what? Waste of money because you have to pay the directors and more cost. That doesn't mean you don't need governance. So what are the governance framework in Ghana? One, we need to understand the board structure. A balanced board should be what? We must know about it. What are the key legislations when it comes to the governance in Ghana? We know the State Interest and Governance Act, 2019, Act 990. This is for state-owned enterprises. And the regulations like the Bank of Ghana Corporate Governance Directive or Disclosure Directives. So the examiner can specifically bring any of these acts and ask you a question about them. Again, it's not about the pre-scene, it's about what is in the syllabus. 3, the role of audit, very crucial. Our company doesn't have any internal audit unit. They don't have audit committees. They don't even have committees of the board. Okay? They have never even changed or reviewed how meetings are supposed to be done. per the rules, they are supposed to have meetings minimum of 4. The last time they are doing 3. So there are issues there. Then certainly, investor influence. The role of institutional investors in shaping and enforcing good corporate governance practices. Again, you will say, oh, what is institutional investors? This is a private company. We don't care about your analysis of the case. What is in the syllabus under governance? So when it comes to governance, the examiner can throw you and ask you 20 marks questions that you can't find anywhere in the precinct. But it's in the syllabus. It's in the syllabus. So, yes, this company has governance issues. Yes, there are a lot of deficiencies about governance for our company. We will get into some of these things. But the examiner can decide not to ask you any question about our company, go to the syllabus and ask you something else. Is it that the examiner is throwing you off? No. Is it in the syllabus? Yes. That's my goal. Then the second thing is the role of accountants in upholding ethical governance, right? So the OECD principles, ethical code of conduct for professional accountants. There are ethical issues, because remember in strategic case study, ethical issues are on levels. The first level is what you know, professional accountants. You have to be ethical. So the ethical code of conduct, right? Integrity, objectivity, confidentiality, professional competence and due care, professional behavior, individual level. But in case study, we take that to a step further to look at ethical issues also on a corporate level. And there are some ethical issues that we have to deal with in terms of this precinct. So that is another thing that we need to understand when it comes to corporate governance. And that brings me to the last part of my discussion, and that is the end of what is in the syllabus. So for the 100 marks question that we will see in the exam hall, spread across either 5, 7, or 8 questions in the exam hall, 20 marks will be on corporate governance. 20 marks will be on financial objectives and strategies. Minimum, okay? Minimum. Let me say that. 25% will be on strategy into action. 15% will be on strategic choice. 20% will be strategy analysis. And these are the key areas you must understand and how they are connected to the syllabus, to the precinct. Okay. So now that we know the end, we know where the examiner is going to be coming from, we know what we have to study, what we have to focus on in each of the areas, let's come to the precinct. And let's find out some of the things that we can share our thoughts on. Certainly, if there are any questions, you bring it up on Microsoft Teams. And then those of us joining us there too, you can put it in the chat for me there. So let's come to the precinct data. Now, this precinct is built in such a manner that, you can see the mess I've created in my document. Don't worry, I'm going to be making it cleaner for you so that you get access to that as well, if it is possible for us to get access. But you see the way I've messed up my script, right? Because that is how I go through the analysis generally. So let's start the discussion from the first part of the syllabus, strategic analysis. So for that 20 marks area, what are the things that we need to be mindful of, as we mentioned? Certainly the strategic landscape, external environmental analysis, these models, SWOT analysis, then some IT issues. So these are the thematic areas for this 20 marks area that we need to look at. So let's begin the journey. Who are the key stakeholders in our pre-scene document or the company that we are addressing? They listed a number of stakeholders, so we can have them listed in a way. Certainly, we will talk about the customers, okay? The shareholders, who in this case are also the management of the company. The employees of the company, they are stakeholders. The government, okay? Regulators, government and regulators. Suppliers, competitors. All these are stakeholders. So the question is, using the Mendello matrix, identify the key stakeholders of the entity. And the reason why that question may come up in two angles. Either the examiner will say, identify, using the Mendello matrix, identify the key stakeholders of the entity. So among these people, what are their interests, okay, in the company? And then what is their power or control they can have over the company? That is using the Mendello matrix on a low-key level. But then the way this could also be tied up is because of the investment that they want to make in Nigeria, the new factory that they want to establish in Kumasi, the new vehicles that they want to buy, and the various changes they want to bring within the organization. Each of these strategic decisions identify the key stakeholders, their interests and power or control that they may have that will either help the company to successfully pursue that strategy and implement it or not. So that's the idea there, using the Mendello matrix. So it could just be organic. You list them, their interests, their power, look at them. Or it will be tied into one of the strategic decisions that the company is making. Then you have to analyze, how will customers feel about it? What will shareholders do about it? How will employees feel? What would the government do? How will suppliers feel? What would be the reaction of competitors? That is the first level, the Mendello matrix, to identify the key stakeholders, their power and influence. And I'll come back to this later on when we are wrapping up our discussion. But let's come to the usual issues that we need to be mindful of. And that will be the environmental analysis. So let's start from the environment. And certainly when we are looking at the macro environment, first we go to the PESTEL framework. The PESTEL framework. Now, as I said, let me just go back because we are linking everything we are doing. I've jumped to environmental analysis, but don't worry, we're going to be coming back to the stakeholder analysis. We'll talk about issues in respect of corporate social responsibility as we continue with the discussion. So, environmental assessment. Two key models that we want to be mindful of here. Macro environment, and then what? The Porter's five forces. Now, there is also the international environment where Diamond will be coming to town. Porter's Diamond. So, for instance, they are seeking to go into Nigeria, right? So, what factors must they consider before going into Nigeria? We can look at that. Then we can use the Porter's Diamond to even evaluate the decision they are making going to Nigeria. Don't worry, we'll get there. Okay? We'll get there. Just stay with me. So let's start with the PESTEL framework. If you're a good student, the PESTEL framework provides a comprehensive framework for understanding the macro environmental factors that shapes the strategic landscape within which the company is operating. Our company is operating in Ghana, traditionally. But then you must understand that there are various factors in the macro environment that shape the way they carry out their business and, by extension, the industry. So what you must understand is that when we are doing pistol analysis, the focus is not on our company, because the pistol is looking at assessing the macro environment. So the question we ask ourselves is, what is the macro environment in respect of the entire industry? Then, based on the things happening, what should be the strategic decision or action that our company should take? Are you getting the trick here? So that's how we are writing it up. Pistol framework is not for EWL, our company. No. It's for the industry they are in, what is happening in the entire country, its implication on the industry, so that based on that, what should our company do? Very important. So, pistol is just a representation of political, economical, social, technological, legal, and environmental factors. So let's take them one after the other. First, the political environment. Based on the context of the question we read, there are some regional trade agreements. Remember, the decision by EWL going into Nigeria was partly because of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. And they are also going to be leveraging on that in the other future projects that they want to undertake. Do you get it? So this Africa Continental Free Trade, this regional trade agreement is something that is going to fuel the industry growth. And that is now going to facilitate EWS plan expansion into Nigeria and the other West Africa markets. Because trade will be now flexible than it was prior to the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. But not only that. Under political factors, there are other geopolitical risks. You remember we were told that there are various things that are affecting the industry within which the entity is operating. And so trade wars or trade dispute between United States and China has become really intense. There are supply chain uncertainties which is affecting imports. So there is a lot of volatility within the market. What does that mean? It means that for our company EWL to expand and grow and continue to gain sustainable competitive advantage, it must manage it through diversification and agile procurement strategies. So they cannot just rely on China, on Turkey, or Turkey, or US, or just one part. Diversification is key, so that if there's a trade war somewhere and it has some impact on the supply chain, we can get it somewhere else. Geopolitical risk. Third, regional instability. Yes, our company is in Ghana. To a large extent, 99% probability, Ghana is a peaceful country. To a large extent, our political system is stable. There is stability. Since 1992, there hasn't been any transition of power that has resulted into mayhem or chaos. So Ghana is relatively stable and then peaceful. But you have to understand that our company, EWL, is not just thinking about Ghana. Nigeria is there, that they are going. So the political issues there, the instability issues, Boko Haram and co. Then reference was made, Democratic Republic of Congo. How are these? Because these are likely to disrupt raw timber supply chain, reinforcing the strategic vision of EWS relying more on the international sources. Even in Ghana here, there are some instabilities somewhere. There are little skirmishes right? In the Boku area and the other areas. So there are even Ghana here, there are skirmishes. So the company is seeking to maybe open up. So we don't know what will happen in the unseen information, but those things must also be considered. So these are the things that we will explain under the political factors. Ghana is peaceful. Governance system stable. Yeah, we don't have civil unrest. Recently, they were told that, I don't know how true that is, that a Senegalese was kidnapped and killed here in Ghana. So civil unrest is largely not there. Ghana is peaceful. When you finish talking like that, then you add these ones to completely discuss those political factors. Next one, economic factors. When you're talking about economic factors, broadly, it's divided into two areas. Number one, the contribution of the industry in question to the GDP of the country. Then number two, the issues about those economic factors and how they influence the industry as a whole and what our company must do to reduce the negative impact of those economic variables. So that is the broad discussion when it comes to the economic factors. In addition to those things, market growth. Yes, we are told that on the overall, the market is projected to grow. What does that mean? It means that there is a favorable long-term outlook for the products we are producing, EWL's products. Because you don't want to be in an industry that is static, in an industry that is declining. Then there is no future for you. But the projected growth means that, Charlie, we got a future. But there is currency instability. So there is high exposure to foreign currency risk management. Yes, we know in Ghana what they have been doing. Now the central bank has pumped some money into the system. So the Ghana cedi has come down. When they get to another point, they're going to take the money out of the system. Then the Ghana cedi will rise again. But at least to some extent, we can say there is some level of stability and guarantee for businesses. Nonetheless, that exposure is still there, especially for our company because it imports the things that they are doing. So, what does that mean? The persistent depreciation of the Ghanaian currency directly increases the cost of EWS import, forcing EWS to pursue either cost-saving efficiencies or risk market share by raising prices in a price-sensitive environment. Because remember, and we'll get into this under the Porter's 5 forces in a moment, they are living in a highly competitive environment. So the profit margin is very small. And so if there is currency issues, cost is high, then you will be forced to increase your price. But if you increase your price, because there are a lot of competitors and the switching cost is zero, they can go to your competitors, then you lose a market share. So how can the entity deal with this currency risk issue? There are a couple of strategies available. They can decide to have some foreign operations and do business in dollars as well. Are you getting it? So if they have some business in dollars, getting some inflows in dollars, then they can do the net off approach. So if you are receiving some money in dollars, then if you are supposed to pay somebody in dollars, you use that money so that the net amount, you find it from somewhere. Or use money market hedge. Okay, if you are due to pay X amount of money, then go to the bank, borrow same, put it in a foreign deposit account. It will accrue interest. When it is time to pay the person, liquidate the investment. You have the dollars available. Use it to pay the person. That's the idea. Or if you are due to receive some money in USD, right? Then what do? Borrow the equivalent of the money now, put it into an investment in Ghana cedi. It will accrue interest. When the person pays you the money in the dollars, you use that money to pay for the foreign loan that you went for. So you are not exposed. So the entity must find out. That is why I said it's a risk that the entity is exposed to, and they must find ways to manage that risk. And it's a question the examiner can access. High financing cost. 34% on the average to borrow money here in Ghana. Now, probably it may have reduced due to the reduction in the inflation and the policy rates also coming down a little bit. But 34% as per the precinct. It means the expansion project that the entity wants to undertake in Nigeria, the factory they want to open in Kumasi, the electric vehicles that they want to buy, they need money. And if they have to go borrow the money at an interest rate of 34%, mbada. This is a highly competitive environment. How much profit is the entity making to pay this? But this is interest rate risk exposure. So how can they manage the risk associated with this? That will be our concern as analysts. There are a couple of options available to manage foreign interest rate risk. They can go with a forward contract. So since they know they're going to undertake the project in Nigeria, when are they planning to go to Nigeria? Give me a sec. Let me see if I can get the Nigeria dates specifically. Laba laba la, libi libi lo, loba loba lo. Kumasi is by 2026, right? 2026. The factory in Lagos, they want to do it by 2028. So, forward contract means don't wait till that time if you expect that there will be further increase in the interest rate. We can go to the bank now and I'll tell the bank, hey, wait, listen, we're going to need X amount of money to open a factory in Kumasi early 2026. We're going to need Y amount of money to open a factory in Nigeria early 2026. We want you to give us the loan. At what interest rates can you work for us? Then we negotiate. That's a forward contract to deal with the foreign exchange management. To avoid that totally, then you bring in equity. Okay, or to reduce the impact, we can use more equity finance than debt finance, which means that the owners may have to inject more money. What if they don't have? Then a venture capital may come in. Now, when a venture capital comes in, the kind of structure they have, they won't have that. Because a venture capital will not bring in money, and they would want equity interest, and you will have your wife as the board chairman, and you as the board chairman, and your wife as the, friend is saying, second in command. We don't do that. Venture capital firm will come and scrap those things and say, hey, we need a formal board structure. So what are the disadvantages and advantages of that? That must be dealt with. So that risk that they are exposed to, the interest rate risk, they must find a way to manage them. Then certainly interest rates, inflation rate, and energy prices. These are some of the key threats that the entity is exposed to. Inflation and energy prices. To deal with the energy side, they are trying to use some renewable energy sources to reduce their average cost, generally. So 15% rise in energy costs in 2022 directly impacts EWS operational expenses, squeezing margin and heightening the need for investment in energy efficient technology. So these are the economic factors. So again, I am in Pistol. I'm explaining Pistol to you. But if you pay attention closely, I have also told you about some of the risks that the entity is exposed to and how those risks could be managed. That's the impulse. That's the impulse. Third, social. The socio-cultural factors talks about a number of things, how people behave within a society, a geographical location, or a region. So it talks about the behavior norms, the values, the belief system of the people. That is the social, cultural factors. What are the thematic areas we need to be mindful of there? One, urbanization and housing demand. Across the world, there is rapid urbanization happening. And Ghana, we were told in the pre-scene document, has housing deficit of 1.7 million, which means there is more opportunity for our company because the things we sell, in the construction materials we sell, there is more opportunity available for us. So urbanization, housing demand is creating opportunity for us. Again, if you pay attention, I am indirectly also presenting SWOT analysis. We'll get there, don't worry. But that is the idea, the first thing. So 1.7 million units of houses deficit in Ghana. You know, one of the things in Ghana, the houses, right? Sometimes you see the house and the price of the house, you'll be like, whoa, what the heck? But almost all the time, all properties are sold out. So you're like, geez, who are the people buying the houses? But recently, some of the issues that have been coming up, some people allegedly steal state's money, then they use it to buy houses. No wonder the average Ghanaian cannot buy a house. Because you are competing with the enemies in the dark realm. Somebody has allegedly embezzled state funds, and the person is buying a house. How much is your monthly salary? But that is the idea. We have housing deficit, and so there is an opportunity for growth for our company and the industry as a whole. Next, customer preference. What do customers want? In the question, we were told that a growing consumer preference for high-quality imported engineered wood over the previous ones is also something. And this also strengthens what our company does, quality things. Quality things. But on the customer preference level, customers are also gearing towards environmentally friendly materials. That was also stated in the pre-scene. So all that will be part of the social factors and also avenue for more opportunities for our entity to expand and grow. Technology. Technological factors. Production advancement. See, the technology is available. So again, you are not just talking about what our company is doing, AWL, but you are going to talk about what is available. So a lot of issues, global trend towards automation, AI, quality control and all that, an area where EWA has already invested and built a competitive advantage. So they are already doing a lot of the things. But you got to understand, because they have a website that people don't like. They have a website that is not responsive. And there is a cyber security issue, the IT aspect of this segment of the syllabus that the examiner can ask us about in the exam hall. Because they have online portal, an e-com store that people can go and buy things. But many people are not using it because the user interface is poor. If you remember, give me a sec, let me see if I can get you the exact paragraph that story is. Let's see, it's here. Technology, yeah, here. Page 2. Okay. Digital advancement and technology, Okay. So that's the issue there. Here. So digital technology, point number 1. Okay. Automation in production process, point number 2. Artificial intelligence for quality control, point number 3. So they are available. And because they are available, especially the artificial intelligence area, cybersecurity issues could be rampant in that regard. Then the last thing is digital adoption challenges. And this was what we saw in the question. Their own employees don't want to use the system. And that's a challenge. So EWL, unreliable online ordering system, highlights a gap between technological intent and execution. representing a strategic weakness that hinders modernization and exposes the company to security risk. So that's a weakness on the part of the entity. Because if you deploy technology and people cannot use the technology, your customers cannot use it, your employees are not willing to use it, then there is a problem with you as an organization. And this company, because it is in the hands of Aja Texin and Enna Texin, they are the two people. And Mr. Texin is, carry himself like IT guru, so he thinks he knows it all. But if we have a dedicated team available handling the issue, then it would have been deployed better. There would have been documentation on how to use it, and they would have trained their employees to use it, and even designed the system in such a manner that the user interface will be friendly and the average person can use it to make order or place order online. Because where the future is going, people will not get time to come to our shop. They should be in their house, and with artificial intelligence, virtual reality devices, have the measurement, and then do the order online, make payment, then delivery. They don't have to come to our shop. So that is a crucial growth opportunity that the entity is sleeping on. Yes, it may not be well developed now, but it has significant potential going into the future. So that weakness that they have currently has to be fixed. And it's an area that the examiner can ask you something about exclusively. Then we come to the legal environment. When it comes to the laws, because of the industry the company is in, there are some international regulations. The global sustainability regulations like the European Union Deforestation Regulation, LEED certification and all that. It's creating market opportunity that align with EWL's strategy of sourcing from accredited international suppliers. If you remember, one of the strengths of our company is that because they are environmentally friendly company, they buy from suppliers who are equally using environmentally friendly systems. If you remember, that ordering thing is, I think, below under sustainability segment of the sustainability paragraph. Business operation challenges, market growth, the strategy of the company, management structure, corporate governance, no. Oh, I'm done. Where is the sustainability paragraph? Sustainability paragraph. Give me a second, let's see if I can find business operations environment. Okay, this is about, sorry. Oh, was the sustainability that far? La la la. Oh, and the Majayo. I wanted to see if I can just see that paragraph on sustainability. Because it's a huge, because that's where corporate social responsibility also tied into that paragraph. So I wanted to see if I can contextualize it. Business environment, financing issues, using energy efficiency, we've already addressed that. Growth in the local markets, strategy of the company, proven success, negativity. Oh, I can't find donation, corporate social responsibility. Okay, so this is the corporate social responsibility initiative. The Despite segregation of to ensure operational. Charlie, let me go. Let me continue. Maybe tomorrow when we are trying to go through, I'll bring you back to that generally so that I show you where that is. Because, having those positions is there. It should be in my slide, but just that because I'm in hurry, I cannot specifically pick it up. Then domestic legislation. Ghana here, there is a problem. Okay, there is a problem. There is weak enforcement of, Ghana's Timber Resource Management Act, Act 547, and that is contributing to illegal logging, okay, and then issues about illegal mining. Yes, right now there are changes coming in. I mean, they are taking some actions to deal with Galamsey and the other encumbrances in respect of that, but, the issue is there. Okay, so that's the legal environment. So these are threats. Okay, on one side could be opportunity, but on another side could be threats, right? Availability. Then the last thing is environmental issues. Now, our entities, this is looking at the industry's impact on the environment, how we obtain resources from the environment, and then the impact that our operation have on the environment, the output. So how do we get our products? How do we deliver our product, and what's the end product? So here, sustainability imperatives. And we are told that there is a growing demand for sustainable building materials. And this is a key marketing and differentiation opportunity for EWM, given its sourcing of certified products. Resource depletion, deforestation, and illegal mining of Galamsey has destroyed a lot of our forests, because under the previous administration, they brought in an LI that allowed people to go into forest reserve, destroy the forest, and mine gold. So that's an issue there in that regard. Then the illegal logging is also an issue that we need to understand. But if you remember, EWL is an environmentally responsible organization. And so if you remember, we are told that even their sawdust are compressed, changed, and then they donate those materials. I think I saw that a moment ago. Okay, locally to people. Yeah, this is part of corporate social, this page 15 here, this is part of corporate social responsibility. We'll come back to that later in the discussion. Let me go. In the next session, when we are talking about the sustainability issues, I'll bring the paragraph up so that I don't have to spend time. So this is our PESTEL framework. So it's a 10 marks question you can get. And the examiner will say, analyze the macro environment. Sometimes he won't tell you PESTEL. Just say, analyze the macro environment within which EWL operates and what it must do to gain sustainable competitive advantage. Macro environment or the external environment. So those are the synonym. Macro environment or the external environment that the entity is operating within. That is what you must understand when we talk about the PESTEL framework. So in the PESTEL framework, you can get strength because there are things the company is doing well. You can get weaknesses, things the company is not doing well. You can get opportunities. You can get threats. That is why I told you earlier that if you have a question and the examiner asks you to assess the strategic position of the entity, you are supposed to rely on the PESTEL framework, the Porter's 5 forces, and then SWOT analysis. But you're not going to write all three because you're technically going to just use SWOT analysis. Because when you are doing SWOT analysis, the macro environment and the industry within which we are operating in, the factors from there come in the SWOT analysis. Because they could be opportunity or threats. Okay. Let's go to the second one, Porter's 5 forces. Because in the macro environmental analysis, let's look at the industry within which the entity is operating. The Porter's five forces helps us to understand the industry within which the entity operating and the strategies, and to help us to formulate strategies that the entity can use to gain sustainable competitive advantage on the overall. 1, threats from new entrants. If you remember, we were told in this question that it requires investment. Okay? And that I think I can bring up easily. So permit me to bring that up very easily, because I think that is an area that I highlighted pretty well. So permit me to see if I can bring that area up quickly. Here. It says that, yes, it requires substantial investment. So this is from page 1. There is restricted access to raw material. So the key players now enjoy economics of scale. So if you're not careful, those are, yes, barriers to entry. But you must understand that our business is also in importation. You don't need a lot of money to do importation. So although these barriers may be there, there are ways around it. Number 2, we were told in the question that some suppliers are now starting to produce the thing, forward integration. So they are also coming into the market. Number 3, we are told that some customers have stopped buying and they have established their own factory to produce their own thing in-house. So it tells you that this is a fragile market. That although you may see that there are some barriers there, people can enter if they want to enter. It is on that basis that we say that the threat from new entrants in the distribution segment of the business is high. The distribution part. But then that importation, using the technology, cutting wood, we can put it in the middle a little bit that, it's moderate. So the threat from new entrants varies significantly between industry segments. For the manufacturing side, which is what we read, barriers are high due to substantial capital, regulatory hurdles. However, the distribution segment, where EWL operates, the barriers are considerably low. This is evidenced by the increasing influx into the market of cheaper, poor quality engineered wood from new foreign distributed from East and South Asia. That area there, every day they are in the news. And so it is on this basis that we say that the threat from new entrants is high. Very important. So the big question then is, if the threat from new entrants is high, what should our company do? This is why advertising must come in. The entity must stop doing itself like, at the Panetone home, if you satisfy customers well, they will make referrals for you. Yes, that is true. But that cannot be the sole source of business. Because people can come in. There are low quality things available. People are price sensitive. They can go. So the entity must have a marketing plan and intensify its marketing. Then they must continue to offer the quality services, products that they are offering, so that it will discourage their customers from going to the other new players in the market. Now, the reason I'm bringing those things up is because it's not just about, the threat from new entrants is high. Indeed. What should our company do? That is where you come in as the analyst. 2, bargaining power of suppliers. If you look at what we have here in the context of the question, in the global manufacturing industry, suppliers are concentrated and powerful. We read that. However, for distribution like EWL, this power can be effectively mitigated by building strong, trust-based relationship. Mr. Texan has secured favorable credit terms of 60 to 120 days from a primary supplier in Turkey and China. This strategic relationship management significantly improves EWL's working capital and reduces suppliers' direct influence over its operations. Overall, the bargaining power of EWL suppliers is low due to the effective relationship with management. So, yes, on the global level, it is concentrated and powerful. Like you can get your things from certain places. But they have changed that power into nothing by the building of that relationship. So, to the context of the question, in respect of EWS suppliers, we will say it is low. Why? Because they have negotiated credit terms from 60 to 120, and that is an improvement to their working capital. 3, how about customers? Customers there is high, right? Because shifting cost here is okbo. I mean, if I want to buy plywood or I want to buy some quartz stone. If I want to go and buy from shop A and I don't like it, I'll just go and buy another one next time at shop B. Switching cost is okbo. And there are a lot of people in the market. So because of the numerous products available, especially the influx of the low quality products, it means customers can switch easily. Because of that, to some extent, we will say that customers have strong bargaining power here in that regard. So the competition, the switching costs being literally negligible, the number of influx coming in regularly, all these have given customers choice. And customers will have information about the market, prices, and various things. On the basis of these, we say that the buyers or the customers have strong bargaining power. Then we come to threat of substitute product. You got to be careful here. Because always when we get here, I emphasize that. When we talk about substitute here, we are not talking about your Milo and Bonvita. We are not talking about Colgate and Pepsodent. We are not talking about Geisha soap and Alatasamina. That's not what we are talking about here. Substitute here is another product in a different sub-industry that can do the same thing. That's threats from substitute products. So I always use this example that if you want to travel to Kumasi, you can go by road, you can go by air, or you can decide to walk on foot though, but that's also road. So air and road become substitute. So GPRTU, threat from substitute will be the domestic airlines. The domestic airlines, threat from substitute will be GPRTU. That's the same idea. For our industry, there are alternative materials available that people can use. And these are metal panels, plastics, and composites. These were mentioned directly in the question. Alternatives. And they offer benefits like durability and fire resistance. So, although the alternatives are available, their adoption is a little limited. So, because of that, we will say the threat from substitute product is moderate. It is there, but not many people are using it because it's like new things coming up. So it's not strong, it's not weak, moderate. That is threat from substitute products. Then the last point, competitive rivalry. The industry is highly competitive. I mean, there is price war in the market. The market is segmented, really, really fragmented between various companies. And there is only price coming in. So the competitiveness in the market is very high. And that is what we must understand when we talk about this. So the intense rivalry and high buyer power creates a landscape where operational efficiency and customer loyalty are not just goals, but survival imperative for EWL, placing immense pressure on its internal capabilities. So that is Porter's 5 forces. Analyzing the industry. Now, my goal for you, as I say always, is knowing how to write out the answer and express your thoughts. Right? Knowing how to write the answer. So, because you can't just go and say, oh, threat from new entrants is high. How did you reach that conclusion? So the factors must come. Bargaining power of customers is high. How did you reach that conclusion? Then most importantly, what should our company do? I keep emphasizing on that part because application of the models to the case study is not about regurgitating the models. It's about how the models live, breathe in the case study. So whatever thing you are talking about, what should we do? If it is not good, how do we address it? If it is good, what do we do? But those are the issues about the external environmental assessment. Then we come to the internal environment. Resource audit is key there in the internal environmental analysis. Brainstorming is key in that regard. Because if you remember in this question, they do some brainstorming. They said, Mr. Texan meets them, is it every Monday or so, right? To have a discussion. That's brainstorming. It's a form of brainstorming, an internal mechanism, which is in your syllabus. So, is it 8 a.m.? It was somewhere. 8 a.m. something. Let it to be in their operations. You know, it's interesting having the whole idea about the case. Then you got to now figure out where exactly it is. It's as I said, I've highlighted though. I'm going to clean this up for you, so don't worry. I want to see if I can see that thing. Hey, you let me continue so I don't have to spend time on this. But there is brainstorming. That session can be regarded as brainstorming. So resource audits, resource model, the MS model, the various resources and entity needs. Then brainstorming is there. Gap analysis is also there about the internal issues. Gap analysis has to do with what we could achieve and what we are achieving now. The difference between that is the gap. And for the most part, we don't want big gap. Okay? This is not politics that we say we want a bigger gap. No. So gap analysis looks at what the entity could achieve, the potential of the entity, and what it is currently doing. That's a concept about gap analysis. And when the entity identify that it is operating far below what it could achieve, then measures must be put in place to be able to improve upon operational efficiencies, human capacity building, to close that gap, to increase or to maximize the wealth of the shareholders, because through that, the entity can continue to gain sustainable competitive advantage. That's it. Then you come to SWOT analysis. So as I told you earlier, the examiner can ask us 10 marks question to prepare SWOT analysis for the company. Direct like that. Or the examiner can say, analyze the strategic capacity of the entity or the strategic position of the entity. SWOT analysis will feature in that answer. You can use SWOT analysis to answer that question. So again, knowing where you have to call on SWOT analysis. So you see a question, analyze the strategic capacity or position of the entity, then you are sitting there. No, SWOT analysis. Boom, you go. So the SWOT analysis helps us to consolidate on the overall, the external factors from the macro environment, as we said, and the competitive environment, with an internal environmental analysis of the core capabilities and the internal limitations. So that's why we said SWOT analysis is the amalgamation of Porter's 5 forces, PESTEL framework, and then resource audit and internal analysis. So what are the strengths of this company? I think we've gone through a number of them. Primarily, they are a customer-centric company. We saw that, right? Everything. To the extent that the managing director, Mr. Texan, has a residential property near the factory so that if he has to sleep, he sleeps so that the work will be done, right? So every time they ensure that everything is around customers. Then he has built an SL to be able to track things so that if a certain customer's order reduced for a period, then he can call the customer. If there is an issue, they resolve the issue as quickly as possible. So this whole entity's operation is customer-centric, and that is a good thing. 2, investment in advanced production technology. That is a crucial thing, and it's a strength to the company. So the state-of-the-art equipment that they have is a capable strength for the company. IT savvy and data-driven leadership. Mr. Texan is really a knowledgeable person who uses his expert to be able to make the decision. So he makes decision based on data. And he is always looking at the data. He's not Baumia, but he's always looking at the data. Do you get the idea? That's just by the way. Please, as I say always, don't take things personal, okay? Relax. Then another strength is the strong trust-based supplier relationship, which we referred to earlier when we're doing the discussion. Because to be able to negotiate, say, hey, although you are giving everybody 60, do 120 for me. That's a good thing. And before a supplier will give that green light like that, it means you've earned their trust. And that should be a strength. That must be celebrated. And then a well-diversified one-stop portfolio. The idea that when someone comes, they don't have to come and buy stone here, go buy something there, go... No. Sort of a one-stop shop is a strength. Now, there are other strengths that I think you identified if you prepared a SWOT analysis. But, these are some of the things that we can talk about. Now, the trap then is, hey, Nhyira, so if I have this as a 10 marks, how many points am I supposed to write? If it is a 10 marks, and under each of them there is pointers coming up, at least 3 or 4 is good. Well explained, 3 or 4. Again, look at the way I'm presenting the ideas up. So 3 or 4 will be a good point there. Are you getting it? That's the idea. But in as much as there are these, customer-centric, IT, trust with suppliers, one-stop shop, there are some internal limitations that are preventing the organization from achieving what it really wants to achieve. And these are the weaknesses. So weaknesses are the internal deficiencies or limitations. What are these? Conflicting leadership style and HR deficiencies. Because this is where leadership issue is coming in. This is very crucial because if you remember, we were told that whilst Mr. Texan is like democratic leadership style, here, on page 8, second line, Mr. Texan is generally perceived by employees as approachable, accommodating, and open to a dialogue. His leadership style emphasizing teamwork, flexibility, and collaboration. So that is his style of leadership. And that style of leadership is called the democratic leadership style. That style, teamwork. That style, we are building bond. That style, inclusivity. On the contrary, the wife is the fire. The wife is the fire in the discussion. So, Ms. Texan adopts a more structured, rule-based or rule-driven approach, placing strong emphasis on strict compliance with the company's hierarchies, policies, procedures. So, whilst Mr. Texan fosters conversation, hey, Charlie, miniano, Charlie, Toyota, oh, Charlie, maybe, like, try to vibe with the people, oh, we are a family, that kind of vibe. The woman is not doing that. Hey, you don't meet me at the junction and try to do, actually, hey, madam, how was your weekend? I feel kind. Hierarchy. If you're a low-paying person and you can't just come and talk to a person like that. No. So that is a weakness. And some of the employees, don't like her. Okay? She believes that maintaining discipline, particularly among factory workers, require consistent enforcement of rules, including termination of employment in cases of repeated or serious breaches. It doesn't mean she's bad. That's not what we are saying. Because there is a place where rules and regulations must be obeyed. And when people misbehave, their employment must be terminated. But if you become too robotic like that, and all about rules, that will also repel some people. So it has a good side, just like his husband's own has a good side, but also has a bad side. Because when you become too democratic, sometimes people step beyond their boundaries. That's a problem. A few weeks ago, there was a video that a young lady posted on TikTok, and their boss, okay, it's like Mr. Texan, democratic, teamwork, flexibility, dialogue, and they do videos together, Krapo in Nigeria, right? They do videos together. So apparently it was the boss's birthday, and so the lady gave the boss a kiss by the cheek. So I think just in the moment as they were talking and laughing, she kissed the cheek of the man. And she said when she got home, the man's wife called her that it is demonic and that they were doing some prayer somewhere, so she should visit for the demons to be casted out. And so the lady was, because she said she doesn't have any intention like that. But those are some of the things that democratic leadership style creates. People may no longer know their boundaries. So they feel, He talks with us. We spend time together. So I can do anything I like. And sometimes that loses track, or people lose track of doing what they must do to achieve the goals of the organization. What am I trying to say? There is a good part to Mr. Texan's approach. There is a bad part to the approach. Mrs. Texan's approach, Kankpe Yazo, there is a good part to it. There is a place for it. But there is equally a bad side to it. But this conflicting leadership style of these two top dogs of the company will be regarded as a weakness. Because an organization must have a single approach, a corporate approach that aligns all leaders at the end of the day. 2, significant operational deficiencies. That is a problem. The unreliable online ordering system, okay? That's very important there. And then critical dependency on a single foreign engineer for the repairs, if you remember. Because they don't have the experts in Ghana here. So they have to fly the person out. Now, although Mr. Texan, as we were told in the case, is an IT expert and they are able to remotely fix some of the things, sometimes the person must travel, accommodation, air, fare, everything is really driving the company's operational costs higher. That's a weakness of the company. Because why are you relying on just a single foreign engineer for the repair? Can't you have another alternative? Maybe in Ghana there could be somebody to do it. Maybe in Nigeria there could be somebody. If somebody is coming from Nigeria, the cost will be fairly lower than if the person is coming from Europe, right? Or part of America, or even somewhere in Asia, Singapore, Malaysia, or even China. But that's a weakness of the company. 3, concentrated family governance. The whole company is family. That's a weakness for the company. Now, you got to understand this, because somebody will say, oh, it's a family business, so the values, the goals, the protection of the family values, it's good, but there is a weakness, because it means that there is no oversight, which is a poor corporate governance issue. There is no independent non-executive director on the board. That's a problem for every organization, no matter the type of organization in question. The number 4, a purely recreative marketing model, relying on customer referral, as I said earlier, or for new businesses. You cannot. You cannot say, I'm going to be there, and hey, I'm going to be relying on... No. And so there are various alternative marketing options that are available that they can look at. Okay? So, advertisement. Even when it comes to the advertisement, there are options for it. Are you doing traditional radio, TV, billboard advertisement? Or you are doing advertisement on social media? That's there. Because that is going to create awareness. It's going to also enable us to be able to meet new customers or attract new customers there. In addition to the traditional advertisement as part of the marketing strategy, the entity can also use social media in terms of this one, content creation. There are many businesses that are doing content creation. I think UBA also, they have a whole show on, is it DSTV or so, or on YouTube? Right? It's content creation. And many businesses now have a social media team. A Bango has a social media team. An insurance company has a social media team for creating content online. What are they doing? Awareness. What are they doing? Telling people what we do. What are they doing? trying to attract people to come do business with them. That is new media. Then we can also use social media influencers, right? Go pay people to advertise on their platform. The Kojo Sheldons, the Gossip 24, those other social media people. The Zion Felix and co, we pay them. And then have a spot to their audience. Kweku Chase and co, have a spot. Kali J, the Twitter people as well. These are all options. Now, this will require money. Probably that is why Ujafo is not doing it. But in this day and age, you cannot say you are running a business and your primary source of customers is referral. No. Why is MTN still advertising? Telecel, why are they still? Coca-Cola is still advertising. Then you are relying, I'm using MTN. Why don't I tell people, why won't MTN say, we have whatever, 6 million or whatever, 8 million users or more than that. So they will tell other people to come. So let's not advertise. No, they still advertise. They create content. They use social media influencers. So our company too must transition from this customer referral agenda into another agenda. And it's a question the examiner can ask you. Because each of these weaknesses are question lines that the examiner can ask you to help the entity to solve it. And they are all in your syllabus. Okay. Because the 7 P's of marketing is in your syllabus. The 7 P's of marketing is in your syllabus. You're supposed to know about it. And you did it in level 1. Business Management and Information System. I didn't do ICA level 1. Okay, you did it in Marketing 101 in your first degree. I didn't do marketing in first degree. Okay, you did some marketing in your MBA or MSc. So that is what you must understand there. Those are the weaknesses. So each of those weaknesses are taglines for the examiner to pick some questions from us. Opportunities. Now we are going outside the organization. These are the what is available that the entity can take advantage of to gain sustainable competitive advantage. So what are the opportunities available? We mentioned this earlier. Substantial domestic market growth. Okay. 5.5% for the construction sector. Strategic geographical allocation, there is opportunity for them. That's why they are going into Kumasi in 2026. And they are going into even the international market in 2028. So that international market entering, we'll come back to that though. What are the options available? They want to establish a factory. But as we discussed earlier, they could decide not to have a factory straight. Maybe they could have a store there, right? Then they will export the products from Ghana after they cut and do everything and send it to Nigeria and sell. It's an alternative available there. Or they could decide to acquire a similar company like that there. That would be easier. Because starting from scratch, you are now going to create awareness. Acquisition of a company, easy peasy. Or maybe merge with another company there. Or if you don't want merger, because merger means 2 companies going so that we now have a single company, we can do joint arrangement. Are you getting the idea? So the options, and these are questions the examiner can ask you. That international strategy that they want to undertake, they are contemplating. Because of funding challenges that they would need, interest rates 34%, that is significant. They are not interested in also bringing venture capital. They don't want to be listed. Mr. Texan is broke. The wife is broke. They don't have money to put into the business, but they still want to go to Nigeria. What are the alternative options available for them if they want to go to Nigeria? These are the alternative options. But there are advantages and disadvantages, risks associated with each of these things. So there are advantages and disadvantages of acquisition, of just opening a store there and exporting, of merger arrangement, of joint venture arrangement, in addition to making sure that we know about the political factors in Nigeria, regulations, policies, laws, and then knowing the economic factors. What is the inflation in Nigeria? What is the exchange rate with the Ghana cedi and the Nigeria naira, with the naira and the dollar? All those factors must be considered. Experts, because if we're going to do merger arrangement, the human resource we need will be different from if we are going to acquire. If we will just have a store there, the human resource we need will be different from if we were going to have an organic growth through establishing a new company there. So the human resource requirement will also be different based on the alternative strategy that is elected by the entity. But these options are available. All right? Next, further product diversification. The entity, in addition to the product portfolio that they have, as we saw here, this is their product portfolio, what they are offering. The wood products, stones and quartz, accessory fittings, appliances, services. In addition to all this, they said they are coming to bring in, the management intends to add to its portfolio hard glass. Okay? Which is commonly used in construction. So it means there's an opportunity for them. What are we saying here? It means that unsolved growth metrics is coming to town here. So what alternative strategies can the entity use to expand and grow its market share? To answer that question, unsolved growth metrics. Now, our company is already doing a lot of the things under the unsolved growth metrics. I'll take you there in a moment. But that is what you must understand. Then the last thing that I have there for you is a powerful sustainability trend. Because of the adoption of sustainability, people preferring environmentally friendly building materials, the regulations across the world, government policies and various things, it's creating opportunity for the things that we do that people will come and buy. So these are the opportunities that we need to understand. But you see, in as much as there are advantages available that we can take, there are, if you want, portals available that we can enter into. There are markets available that we can take advantage of. In other words, every sweet thing has a bitter taste. So in that same external environment that we are seeing growth of the market, that we are seeing opportunity to enter new markets, that we are seeing opportunity to bring in new products and sell, that we are seeing people adopting sustainability and environmentally friendly materials, there are some limitations there. And those are the threats. So in the industry, as we have mentioned, there is an intense competition. That's a threat. The cheaper and low or poor quality engineered wood from foreign distributed in China and other parts of Asia, it's a worry. It's a worry. That's an issue there, the competition. Then, severe macroeconomic volatility, which we spoke about a moment ago. Okay? The instability in the currency, import duty, ridiculous amount of money, elevated financing cost, 34%. All these erodes profitability of companies. That's a threat. And on the flip side, all these threats are also risks that the entity is exposed to. Do you get a picture? All these threats are risks that the entity is exposed to. So, competition risk, interest rates, this is currency risk. The currency instability is currency risk. Okay? Then the import duty is there. That could be part of operational risk. Then this will be finance risk. So all these are types of risks. It's a question the examiner can ask you between 5 to 10 marks. Mr. Texan and the wife have now decided to design a risk management policy for the company. State and explain some risks the entity is exposed to and how those risks can be mitigated. There you have it. And risk management is a huge area of your of the discussion when it comes to dealing with strategic case study. Then, pervasive reputation and security risk. Our website could be cloned for frauds to use it. Then artisans falsely attributing inferior products to EWL. That's a problem. If you have dealt with artisans before, they will come, you will tell them, oh, maybe I want this socket. I want the quality one. Oh. Then the artisan will tell you that, oh, there are two types. Oh. The quality one is maybe 1,000 cedis. Then there's another one they are selling for 200 Ghana cedi. Boss, the way I know you, let's not buy the 200 Ghana cedis. Enche. So let's buy the 1,000 Ghana cedi. But these artisans, how crude they are, they will take the 1,000 Ghana cedi, saying that they are going to EWL to buy the quality that we wanted. But they will cut corner and go to the cheaper, poor quality segment and go and buy. And they will pocket the difference. And funny enough, it is like a culture of these people. And they don't see anything morally wrong with it. They are like, oh, so Bia did you want a jumemu? Now, this person will finish and still charge you for his work, exorbitant amount of money. So, if you look at that, customers are dissatisfied. And it is a bad reputation for EWL. Because they will tell the customers that, oh, I bought the money you gave me. Hey, come on, like it didn't even reach. I added, some money. That was not what they bought. So that's a threat on some of these things. Then the last thing that I have there is persistent threat of talent poaching. Because of the fact that it is, highly competitive environment, it's possible, all right, posing a risk to operational continuity and quality. These are the things that you must understand when we talk about SWOT analysis. And that brings me to the end of that area of my discussion. There are various other issues there. Probably I'll bring some of them up later on under culture and those things. But under the SWOT analysis, pay attention to the risk issues we spoke about, and then the various other international strategies that we spoke about that you need to understand. That's it there. So back again to the syllabus, because we are not interested in how eloquent Nhyira is sounding in the analysis. The examiner is not interested in how smooth you think you understand EWL. It's about what is in the syllabus. So, as I said, there are some ethical and corporate social responsibility issues. We'll talk about them later. So I will talk about them later. Risk issues. I've spoken about some of the risk exposure and how they can manage those risks. But risk management is a thematic area. Culture, I may come back to that. Even if I don't talk about it, I've highlighted it to you. So make sure you read on it before you go into the exam hall. Then the IT issues, very important area. You make sure you look at them in that particular case. So that is a 20 marks area with a little extension here and there. So let's go to the next area. Again, if there are any questions, you bring them up so that I can address them. And that's going to be strategic choice. But, let's take a short breather, and then we will come back and continue with the discussion. Okay, let's go. Break over, please. So let's move on into the discussion. Let me bring back my screen. Oh, when I changed, I think I was muted. So, oh, come on, Nhyira. Come on, Nhyira. What are you introducing by this time? Oh, it's high time I look for another software and stop using this software. Okay. Where? Okay. So as I was saying, I mentioned that the this area 15%, okay, unsolved growth matrix, but the BCG or portfolio issue, there's not much information available for us to take in the context of this question. Nonetheless, it has potentials. And so you make sure you understand those issues under portfolio management. Okay, I'm coming in from the book just to show you that. So the BCG matrix, okay, it's there. Make sure you review it because it could be featuring in the exam or star, cash cow, problem child, and then dog. But you know, in addition to the BCG matrix, we also have the product life cycle. Then we have McKinsey and GE business screen, where you are looking at market attractiveness and the business position. Then the last one, Shell directional policy matrix. Shell directional policy matrix. So in the private sector, product portfolio analysis, these are the models we use. The Boston Consulting Group metrics. We can use the McKinsey and GE business screen, the issue about product life cycle, Shell directional policy matrix. Very important. You must know when which one is applicable. Okay? Then in the public sector also, my sound is not coming, really. How is that possible? Henry, my sound should be on. My sound should be on because it's showing here that my sound is on Teams as well. So check your device and see, because my sound should be on. But then in the public sector, remember, public sector issues can be in the exam hall, and this is in your syllabus. In the public sector also, there is product portfolio issue that we must understand, and that is where we talk about the public sector metrics by Montanari and Braca. So all I'm saying is that under product portfolio, yes, although we don't have direct data to support which specific model must apply, we can have that data coming in the additional information. So it has potential. That is all I'm saying that you must understand. Then certainly the Porter's generic strategy, the strategic clock, Then we'll come to the other methods. Then we'll talk about the international things in that case. So let me go down and let's begin the first discussion there. So the Porter's generic strategies. Now, when you read the case study, where is the company at? Would you say cost leadership strategy, differentiation, or focus? Where are they at? Because when it comes to gaining sustainable competitive advantage, an entity must elect where it wants to be. But if you pay attention closely to the storyline that was built in the pre-scene, initially, EWL pursued a focus differentiation strategy. So in the niche of the market, they decided that they want to be, okay, he said cost leadership. No, they are not using cost leadership. It's a mixture of cost leadership and still the la creme de la creme. So look at the bridge. They started with a focused differentiation because they wanted to be la creme de la creme. And so that was what they started with. And so importing high quality products, delivering flawless finishing through precision cutting. And this was targeted specifically at the people who wanted quality products, and they are willing to pay for it. But then, when the influx of the low, cost competitors came in and the economic issues, so people started moving to, those products, the entity then pivoted into bringing in alternative low quality issues, okay, or low price, low cost products to meet those people as well. So the entity transitioned from the la creme de la creme only, focus differentiation into a hybrid strategy. So they now blended the elements of differentiation with some cost competition. Are you getting the idea? So they are not cost leadership. They are not cost leadership. They are hybrid strategy. So a little la creme de la creme, we pay high people, a little cost leadership for the low people. So hybrid, they are in the middle. That's what we are saying. Why? Because this dual approach allows the company to continue serving its original quality-focused clientele while also competing effectively for the business of artisans and developers who prioritize cost. So there are some of the artisans who will say they are going to buy the product as EWL, as we said. They will collect the money and go and buy it as somewhere else because they think our products are too expensive. So to deal with that, that's where the cost leadership comes. So that those artisans, although they have bucketed the customer, they will still come and buy from us anyways. But when they come, they won't buy the high-priced one. They will buy the low-priced one. So that is the model. Now, what does this teach us? It teaches us that our company, EWL, has pragmatic response to market pressures and sets the stage for managing its product portfolio for future growth. It means they are not set on stone to say that, hey, we are la creme de la creme, let's do some low price. And you will see this hybrid strategy for a lot of companies. Every company is now, bringing some level. Apple, everybody knows Apple as the high-end thing. The iPhone, expensive. But okay, Apple is like, how do we bring some people into the door? Okay, let's bring the iPhone Air, okay, the iPhone 17 Air, okay? It is cheaper, high end. You still get the Apple experience, but it is cheaper. And that one is targeted to the price sensitive people who still want to flex with Apple devices. Then the 17 Pro, 17 Pro Max will come to the, people who are quality sensitive, that kind of stuff. So Apple, we see this with Apple, right? Doing Samsung, hybrid. Samsung has the la creme areas. The S lines, the Z flips, the Z folds. Those are la creme de la creme. Then they have Miensa 2000, Mimamia Bokai, S42, G53, whatever the heck. Cost leadership. So over the period, all companies, or like almost every company, is trying to, yes, we will have the top line product for the top line people, but we are leaving some money on the table. So how do we still bring in some people to still enjoy us, but not break the bank? So that's what is happening to this company. And it's a good thing that they didn't set stone on where they were standing, but they decided to modify. So currently, what they are using is hybrid strategy. A mixture of the differentiation and the cost leadership. That's the idea. Henry, do you get the idea? So it's not cost leadership, but hybrid strategy. That's what they are using. And that is the idea about the cost leadership, the Porter's generic strategies. That's it. Then we come to, still on the strategic choice, Ansoff growth matrix. As we've discussed, this is a strategy to analyze various growth alternatives. So as part of the strategic choices, the entity is seeking to expand and grow. Establish factory in Kumasi, establish factory in Nigeria. They want to enter some of the other sub-Sahara regions in Africa. Okay. Ansoff will then come to town. So what are the alternative strategies available to the company? As I said, for most of these things, the company is already doing them. So it is taking it and making sure that you crystallize the point in the context of the question. So number one is the market penetration strategy. This strategy is, hey, there is still more opportunity in Ghana. Many people in Ghana don't even know us because you are taking your existing product to the existing market. So there is still opportunity for growth here in Ghana. EWL, you don't need Nigeria. You need Ghana. Even Accra, you've not exhausted. Kumasi, you have not exhausted. Takrady, you've not exhausted. Name it. Sahara region, whatever, you have not exhausted. Kintampo, there are a lot of places available. So market penetration. So EWL actively pursues growth in its current Greater Accra market by focusing on customer retention. As we've said, Mr. Texan calls people when their demand reduces. But beyond this, as we've said, the market penetration strategy will be successful through a number of things, or what it means. Penetration means that, number one, convincing people to buy more, which is what he does, so that when their purchases reduce, he calls them. So, customers buying more. Okay? Current customers buying more from us. But not only that, market penetration also means that people who don't know about us can come and buy. So we are getting new customers. And that will be through intense advertisement, not just customer referral. But a third one under market penetration is finding a way to let customers switch to come and buy our own. So switch from competitors. So there are other players in the market, as we were told. Market penetration means what must we do so they will stop buying from those companies to come and buy from us. So advertisement can be there, offering of discounts, customer loyalty cards, all those are things that we can do to implement successfully the market penetration strategy. Yes, he is already doing something by the follow-up, calling existing players, but that is not all there is under market penetration. If we can advertise, because it requires some advertisement, which means it requires some investment, but the risk on market penetration is low. Is the one with the lowest risk. Because what do you lose? You are just going to market more to people. So the only thing is making sure that the marketing message is crafted properly, targeted well, so that it can attract the right people to help us to achieve our goals. So the risk there is low, funding low, human expertise low, but it will they don't even have a marketing team in place intensely. So maybe some expertise. Now, they have outsourced the accounting thing. So it means they can outsource other functions like marketing as well to a marketing consulting firm to handle that for them. And there are many of those things available. But that is market penetration strategy and how EWL can use them. Next, market development. This is where we are taking the existing product into new markets. We are seeing EWL again doing this. That's why they want to open a factory in Kumasi. That's why they want to go to the other parts of the world, okay, like Nigeria even. So yes, they are already in the Eastern Ashanti and the Western regions. So they are not just in Accra. Because remember, I told you that the new market means two things. New market means that we are going geographically, or we are selling to different types of customers other than our customers. That's also new market. So new markets can be geographically or demographically. So that is the idea there. Now, this one is risky. It's riskier than the market penetration. Why? Because it requires some market research. There should be a need compelling enough to force you to go and establish a factory in Nigeria or establish a factory in Kumasi. So R&D investment very crucial, because if you don't get that right, you're going to be in trouble. Number two, regulatory requirements, because the laws in Ghana about how businesses are carried out will be different in Nigeria. Even in the same Ghana, some of the local laws about AMA, the way they will demand the fees they will charge and some things, will be different from KMA if you go there, Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly. So even in the same country, geographically, the laws could be different, the rules could be different. So we have to consider that. Expertise. The human capital requirements for market development strategy will be more intense, more experienced than for market penetration strategy. And all those factors must be considered for the successful implementation of this market development strategy. Yes, our company is already doing something that looks like that. But how do they make it successful? That is where we come in as the consultants. Because remember, in the exam hall, for the most part, you are going to be a consultant. Finding the issues, making suggestions or recommendations to the entity. 3, product development. This is where we are bringing new products to the people who are already buying from us. So we are already selling to builders, artisans. So why don't we sell more of what they need? That is the product development strategy. Again, our company has consistently engaged in product development to better serve its existing customer base. Do you get it? So they do quartz, stones, accessories, appliances, and they want to now bring the hard glass so that they can have that one-stop shop. So that is product development. But this is the thing. That hard glass that they want to introduce, What factors must they consider before going ahead with that deal? Because maybe one or two people will come and are asking. Then you go and invest, import $1 million of hard glass. Bring it, then people are not buying. So this also requires some of the factors that we spoke about under the market development. R&D, expertise, investment, funding. Very important. And this is much riskier than the market development strategy because you are dealing with a new product that you are bringing into the market. Then the last one is diversification. This is where you are veering towards things that are not primarily your main domain. But when it comes to diversification, there are two types of diversification. We have what we call concentric diversification and then conglomerate diversification. Concentric diversification is that you are doing a different thing, but it feeds into what you are doing already, although they appear to be in different industry. So, for instance, a company that is producing a washing machine comes with a vacuum cleaner, or goes launches a vacuum cleaner, or acquires a company in vacuum cleaning. Yeah, they are in the same environment. They use similar technologies. Concentric diversification. Or an airline company goes to establish or acquire a hotel chain. Easy peasy. So you take our airline, we have chauffeur service to take you to our hotel, rather than bringing the people and they have to book their hotel from somewhere else. Concentric diversification. So we are doing something different, but it actually feeds into what we are already doing, and it's sort of, the two sort of feed each other. But conglomerate diversification is where the new product or service that we are offering has no correlation, has no relationship with our existing operation. So this is where, for instance, a bank will go into education, right? Yeah, you can say they can train their employees, but it's a different industry, okay? A social media company goes into financing, conglomerate diversification. That's the idea about diversification. So based on that understanding, for our company, what do we have here? Following the initial failed attempt to relatively diversify to aluminum profiles, the company's current profile expansion is more strategic. So they are doing more of concentric, but a little maybe conglomerate. This can be classified as concentric diversification strategy. Why? Because they are looking at their core competences, serving the construction and renovation industry. But then they are adding some adjacent products like appliances. I mean, that's different from what they are primarily doing in that particular case. Yeah, although you can say, okay, when you finish building your house, you need appliances, right? So that's more concentric, sort of it feeds into each other anyways at the end of the day. But that is what they are currently doing. Now, this is risky. So everything we've spoken about in terms of the factors you will consider in market development, in product development, all of them feed into this exponent too. That's the idea. All feed into this exponent too. Give me a sec. My shirt is black. All right. So that is the answer of growth metrics. That's it. So it's a question standalone that the examiner can access, and it is part of the strategic choices area. So these are the alternatives. Now, let's look at it. which one will be appropriate for the company that we have, EWL? Because you see, we don't just, as I say always, explain the models in the context of the question and walk away. Which one of these four, although they are doing almost all of them, which one must they focus on right now in the short term, in the medium term, and then in the long term? If you're a good consultant, you will tell them that, hey, let's do more of the market penetration in the short term. And then a little of, market development, product development in the medium term. Then in the long term, you can do some diversification and add more things to your portfolio. Why is that important? Because there is still opportunity in the Ghanaian market. There is still opportunity in Accra, in Kumasi, in the eastern region that the entity can take advantage of if only they can advertise more. So why are you hurriedly going to Nigeria? Why? When there is more to be gained here in Ghana. Why do you? But there are various reasons why entities want to go global. Okay? According to Kenichi Omai, there are various reasons. That is the 4 C's of globalization by Kenichi Omai. Maybe you want to go global because of currency issues, as we said. To deal with it, because when you go global, you sell in other countries, you may get the foreign currency, and you can use that foreign currency to pay for foreign purchases. So it helps you to address currency risk. Customer. Your customer base is going to go up, certainly, if you sell products in other markets. Okay, that is there. Sometimes culture. You want to explore the cultures in that regard, and other times to give you competitive edge. Sometimes just to flex that, we're a multinational company. We have a branch in Dubai. We have a branch in Connecticut. We have a branch in London. Yeah, flex. Now, I'm belittling it, but what it means technically, not like flex, but it means that, so if we are advertising our product to locals, we will say, no, we have a branch in Dubai. We have a branch in London. We have a branch in Connecticut. We have a branch in, Saudi Arabia. We have a branch in China. Wow. Then your product should be a good product because these markets are significant marketplaces. It's part of the marketing game to get more sales from the local market. So there are various reasons why companies will go global. So sometimes it may be, you may look at it and be like, irrational, like Kantanka Automobile like this, right? There was a point in time, I don't know how true this was, there were some publications that they had opened a showroom in Dubai, right? So people will be like, in Dubai? Like, how many people have been using Kantanka cars here in Ghana? Then they are going to Dubai. But you must understand the strategic play of that. So the idea now is, if they are selling their cars in Dubai, it tells you that it has to be of that standard. And that helps them to then convince more people here in Ghana, in the sub-Sahara region, to also trust Kantanka automobiles and then buy their car. So that's something you must understand when it comes to these international strategies, reasons why companies want to go global. So sometimes it may not be rational, but there are other reasons that will necessitate it. And when they execute it well, it will then in turn help to prop the local demand, which is at the end of the day what we will do in that regard. So it's like a mindset game, okay, or mind trick game. So in the short term, can we do more of market penetration strategy? Let's get more people to buy our products here in Ghana. In the medium term, We can bring in some market development, the Kumasi thing. There are other places in Ghana we can look at. Then the Nigeria could come in as well. Then in the long term, we can build in entering other markets in the sub-Sahara region, or maybe adding some other products to our portfolio. So that is how you write the conclusion part to the unsolved growth matrix. That's the idea there. That's the idea there. So that is strategic choices, the second issue that we need to understand. Then we spoke about the international strategies, because that's still part of the strategic choices. As we've seen that EWS International Ambitions, it presents a strategic response to domestic market saturation and proactive moves to capitalize on the regional growth opportunities. Yes, there are a lot of, maybe the competition in Ghana is too much. There will not, maybe there's no much competition like that in Nigeria. But as we said, market research must give us data before we go. So international strategies. As we mentioned, now there is a global sourcing strategy because they import finished goods, the engineered wood, quartz, stones, and accessories, principally from Turkey and China. And this approach allowed them to leverage global production efficiencies while it focuses its core competencies in distribution, value-added services, and then the customer relationship management. So yes, they buy their things from the other country. There are advantages and disadvantages of that. Then, they do offer installation services as well. Those are the value-added services. Then the cutting of the things, those are all the value-added services. 2, the expansion strategy, which we've been talking about already. So you see that if you have a deeper understanding, you realize that everything is actually making sense at the end of the day. And then you'll be able to learn well. Because although you are in Pastel, you are also doing SWOT analysis. Although you are in Pastel, you're also identifying the risks that the entity is exposed to. You get the idea? Although you are in Pastel, you are understanding the finance issues, the technological issues that the entity may be facing. That's the beauty of strategic case study. So it's not like it's an isolation. Everything is integrated. So as expansion. As we've said, EWL has developed a deliberate, phased strategy for expanding its West Africa operation. So it's a phase level, as we've mentioned. Market selection. Nigeria has been identified as a primary target hub. Now, if you remember, the way they put it was that Nigeria will be the global hub, or a hub there. Then Ghana will become like a stage that they will use to enter into the other markets. That's the way it was put. And the reason why they want to focus on the West Africa market, as we have said earlier, is the strategic trade advantages offered by the Africa Continental Free Trade, and certainly the issue about urbanization that we spoke about. But here is the catch. Those international expansion strategies, what are the modes of entry? And we've spoken about the various modes of entry, right? 1, the company has chosen a high control entry mode. That is foreign direct investment. So they are going there to establish a factory. So that's foreign direct investment. As we've said, there are other alternative modes of entry, like exporting the things into the country and selling them, like acquiring a business rather than starting it from scratch, which is also a form of foreign direct investment, merging with another company, or also doing a joint venture arrangement. That's possible. It plans to establish a wholly owned subsidiary and factory in Lagos by the end of 2028, providing maximum control over operations quality standards, and brand reputation. So those are the modes of entry. But then we then come to the management orientation of those foreign strategies they are trying to go with. Management orientation has to do with the view that management have, which then directs how international operations are managed. So we have the ethnocentric management orientation, which says that the home country's value is optimum. So we will sort of superimpose that on all of the international markets. So whatever works in Ghana, it will work in Nigeria. Whatever that works in Ghana will work in Cote d'Ivoire. Whatever that works in Ghana will work in South Africa. That is called ethnocentric. So the home country is superior. Everything is done in the home country. So with the ethnocentric management orientation, management normally adopts a centralized organizational structure, which means everything is done in the home country, in the head office, and there is no autonomy for those international operations. So it has advantages, it has disadvantages. The reverse of that is the polycentric management orientation. Here, management perceives and sees each market as a distinct market, and that strategies must be tailored for each market differently. So in the polycentric environment, what happens is that the foreign operations are given full autonomy. And in that case, the organization then adopts a decentralized management strategy, an organizational culture that allows each of the heads to make their own decision. So marketing is different. Products may be modified to meet the market needs. So you don't just take the Sobolo Soba you have here and then you take it to China. No. There has to be modification. And that is why sometimes, even locally in Ghana, some products do well in other parts of the country and they don't do well in in different parts of the country. So for instance, the Sobolo Soba in Accra, those of you who drink Sobolo Soba in Accra, and even Burkina in Accra, is different from the Sobolo Soba or Burkina in Tamale, in Bolgatanga. Why? Because if you go to Bolgatanga or Tamale and you take their Burkina or take their Sobolo Soba, oh my God, Accra boy, you may not be able to stand it. That is called polycentric. We modify the product to suit the taste and preference culture of the people in those different markets. That is the polycentric strategy. Then we have the geocentric strategy, right, which means that on the average, it is assumed that every region has almost similar behavior. In other words, the geocentric management orientation is where multinational organizations divide their market into regions. So you see that they will say European region, then they will say Africa and Asia Pacific, then they will say North America region. Why do they do that? It is an orientation that all Africans on the average behave the same way. All Europeans on the average behave the same way. All Asian on the average behave the same way. The people in North America, South America behave in the same way. So in that case, we adopt strategies based on those regions. But they may be modified a little bit to suit each regional needs, each country within the region. But we don't take principles from one region to another region. In other words, you can't say, let's take some value from Africa and take it to Asia. You can't say, let's take some value from Europe and take it to America. Those are called management orientations. Why did I go through the rabbit hole of that? Because of the staffing approach and the way they have planned to execute entering into Nigeria when the factory is established. We are told that they said initially they want to use staff from Ghana to hold those positions. That is ethnocentric. So they are using experienced Ghanaian personnel in key role so that they can transfer the corporate culture and operational knowledge. That has advantages and disadvantages. I mean, if you establish a factory, a company, and all the top leaders in that, all the top roles of the company are occupied by foreigners, I mean, there are some, culture-wise, you want things to be done in a certain way, but if that is the approach, it has some advantages, it has disadvantages. We could be asked questions about that. But this is the good thing. This company is not a company that is set on stone when it comes to some things. They are a little malleable. So they said over time, they're going to then transition to polycentric, meaning they will now be filling the roles with qualified Nigerian professionals to foster local integration and operational autonomy. So it's not set on stone that, hey, Ghana, value. Because to some extent, okay, if you run, the way we run companies in Ghana, if you take that same model and go to Nigeria, it will not fit 100%. Same thing applies, the reverse is true. The way businesses are carried out in Nigeria, if you take that model and bring it to Ghana, it won't apply. For instance, you look at what happened to DSTV, right? What's happening to DSTV and the thing that is going on. So DSTV Ghana was like, I'm not going to reduce price. Although the communication minister was pressuring them, hey, gada. They said, we can't reduce price. Why? Because the cost build-up, the operational challenges in Ghana is different from what is happening in Nigeria. So back and forth, what happened? They said, okay, we will bump you up. So it means we will give you more value for what you are paying for, but we are not reducing prices. And even this thing is not permanent because in December we have to come and review it. But you know what DSTV Nigeria has done? Recently, they have offered and reduced their prices doing promotions. Why? Because pricing in Nigeria, the VAT is lower and some other operational costs lower than in Nigeria. And they are even offering significant amount of discounts on their decoders to attract more users because Nigeria is bigger than Ghana. So they can use the same business models, business strategies if they want to succeed. And that is the same thing we are seeing with our company. So for starters, ethnocentric, over time, polycentric. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? We must know about that. Then the last thing is the long-term vision of the company. The long-term objective is for the Nigerian subsidiary to become a strategic trade hub for West Africa, and this will allow the Ghanaian headquarters to focus on the domestic market while leading further continental expansion efforts. So that is what we see when it comes to the international strategies. So embedded in that is also the EPRG framework, because management orientation, EPRG framework, they are all embedded in that. And these are the things that you must understand when it comes to the international strategies for the company. A lot of issues there that you have to be mindful of. Then, once we are going to be dealing with issues in respect of strategic choices, change management issues are going to be coming in. Now, largely, change management may come in the implementation phase. But when we are looking at the strategic choices also, the change that will come along with each of the alternatives, we would have to also factor that in. We'd have to consider them as well. And so, in our company that we are looking at, there has been a couple of changes that they have gone through. In 2022, they introduced the online ordering system, which had a strategic intent to, make the company as a modern company. But, it failed. We spoke about that as a weakness of the company. So what contributed to that failure? So that change that they wanted to go to. Now, that is going to be just an incremental change, not a transformational change, right? So it's just a part of the operation that they were changing. So what are some of the things that contributed to that change based on our understanding? The technical failures that we spoke about, the customer barriers. Many of the artisans don't have the knowledge to be able to even use it. Even the whole employees were resisting the change. And that is one thing that change management has to deal with. When employees are resisting the change, what are the actions that the company can take? It's a question the examiner can ask you, and it's part of change management. There are a couple of options that are available when employees decide to resist a change. The first one is to give them some education. Bring them on board and say, hey, listen, this online system, this is how it works. So educate them, communicate with them. Okay? That's the first starting point. Then, certainly, what is going to happen is that some people will come on board. So, the people who will come on board, we now, support them. Okay? And based on that, we are building some coalition with them to be able to do what we have to do. But sometimes after the education and the support, there will be some, brainless people, employees, who will still want to, resist the change. Ogidigba. So we have a couple of options for those kinds of people. We can pay them off to stop talking. So now, I'm explaining this in a big organization perspective, but as I said, we are not just looking at our company, right? We are looking at the discussion as a whole. So there is no trade union in this company. They don't have employment union. But that is part of HR issues that the examiner can access. So let's say these employees who are resisting the change is a union. There is one guarantee or two heads who are doing that. So we can invite them and then, talk to the leaders. Okay? So we negotiate, or if you want, pay off the people who are leading the change. Let me give you an example. Around last year, especially issues about Galamsey, there were a lot of people who were talking about Galamsey, demonstrating every day. They were pressing the neck of the government about Galamsey. How many of those people have you heard still talking about Galamsey today? Please, I'm not saying they have paid off anybody. I'm just asking a question, and we are learning. We are in class. But what you must understand is that when change is being implemented, there are leaders who are championing the resistance of the change. So if we want that change to proceed so that we can achieve our goals, those leaders, we call them, pay them off. Then they can stop the resistance. That's the idea. Like government comes and say, oh, we're going to increase salary by 50% or maybe 20%. Trade union will come and say, hey, we won't agree. We won't agree. Local government people, we will demonstrate. We will demonstrate. We will demonstrate. Then by the time you realize, the leaders will come and do press conference again and say, oh, The economy is hard. When we went, we've thought about it. We think we will give the government opportunity. Mbano. They are not giving anybody any opportunity. Negotiation, some people allegedly may be paid off. That is a way we handle resistance. So whether in the corporate world, the private sector, or in the public sector, is the same agenda. We pay off some top dogs. But you see, sometimes people will still be resisting. So we can sack them. Termination of employment. They are resisting the change. We want to have IT systems in place. You don't like it? Then go away. So we can terminate your employment and sack them. That is why in our question, for instance, Mrs. Texan, you remember that people who don't follow the rules, she causes their employment to be terminated. Because you can't resist, you, an employee, cannot direct how we should run the company. Ewo, anyantoa, anyentia, termination of the employment. So education to bring them on board. Then we build some coalition. We negotiate with the employees, and if we have to compromise, pay some people off, we do it. If there are still people terminating, but the goal must be achieved, we terminate their employment. But there is a last one. That is not a right thing to do. It's an allegation environment. So please take this one just with a baby salt, just with a grain of salt, small one. You see, sometimes the employees will be resisting. And we may terminate their employment, but they will still be doing it even after we've terminated their employment. You can call them whistleblowers. Okay? You know, people leave companies and then they go and share things about companies. At that level, as I said, this one is unconventional, right? So please don't take it really. But it's sometimes some of the things that happens allegedly in practice. We will agbalagba the person. The person will be agbalagba. And we've seen some of these happening around the world, right? So for instance, the aeroplane company boy, one time, someone left, some people left their company, and then they started talking. Oh, the company doesn't follow standards. Oh, especially, I think earlier this year when some of their airplanes were having problem, people came out and they were talking. Some of them slept. They had scheduled to go meet Congress to go and, officially testify. They slept and didn't wake up again. And there is a note there, they are written like suicide. Do you think they committed suicide? I'm not saying they were killed. I'm just telling you, that's agbalagba. Because you see, when you start that thing, the company is going to send its lawyers to come. Maybe first they will threaten you with desist. Then if they think that you cannot desist, they can come. The lawyers can come with a payoff. Because management will direct lawyers, hey, deal with this issue because it's affecting our share prices and it's affecting our brand. Payoff. Then you say, Mba, you can't buy me. Then, we agbalagba you. Then you are gone. OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, same thing. They had a certain staff who also left the company and then started talking about how they are using copyrighted content to train the models, the AI models. And as this guy kept talking, it was then affecting the company. Again, the guy went to bed, agbalagba. There was a note written that he has committed suicide. So the parents, the family of the people, and people are like, oh, nah, oh, no, oh, no. FBI should look into this. This one is agbalagba from OpenAI. But in the corporate world, employee resistance, these are how we deal with them. So you realize that before we would take you to agbalagba, we had given you opportunity that you are not Mother Teresa, you're not the one to save the world. Because we can't allow you alone to bring down a whole company. And this is the reality in life. What does that mean? Please note, the reason I brought whistleblowing is not because I am just talking. It is part of your syllabus issue. Because within an organization, there has to be that whistleblowing mechanism there. People should be able to, there has to be a system within the organization where people can come. If there is something going on wrong, they can come. But in practice, you got to be careful. Because your whistleblowing, you must make sure you have something behind you. Otherwise, in our part of the world, the agbalagba is minana. That one you go easily. There is no evidence at the back. You go. But in the outside world, there is the agbalagba is different kind of agbalagba. You will die still though, but you will leave a suicide note behind. And it will be written in your handwriting, in the person's handwriting, but it's not natural death. But when it comes to resistance from employees, these are the way we deal with them. Okay? And that's it. So those employees resisting the IT, because remember we've said the IT is a future for the company. So those employees who have been resisting why it failed, these will be some options that we can use to deal with them. Please, in the exam hall, the agbalagba part is not part of it. Don't go and write agbalagba in the exam hall. So in the exam hall, you can go with the education and training, support and coalition, negotiate pay of leaders, termination of employment so you can bring new people who execute their goal. At least those are good points. The agbalagba part, that one is just for class. So those are the things that you need to understand there when it comes to those change issue. But you see, broadly, when it comes to change management, there are models for change management. So we have the Gemini 4R framework. We have the Lewin's change management model. And then we have the Rosabeth Cantor's change management model. You must understand all of these. Maybe I will not comprehensively go through all of them, okay? But certainly they are available for you to get access to in the documents that we'll be sharing with you so you can understand them. So the Gemini 4R model, how does it tie into EWL? It is there, reframing, restructuring, okay, revitalizing, and then renewing. Then we come to the second one, Kurt Lewin's change management, because Kurt Lewin said that if we want to implement change successfully, it must go through 3 stages. The first one is unfreeze. We challenge the status quo, convince people that this thing is not needed. So the IT system we are bringing, tell the employees, hey, listen, where we are going, we need this IT system. You people must be trained. It will help you. It will make your work easier. All those things are about unfreezing. Then once we get them to understand why we need the change, then we bring in the change. That is the second stage. And that is where education, support, celebrating little wins will come in. And once they have adopted it, it will now become the new way of doing things, standardization, and that is called refreeze. So according to Kurt Lewin's change management model, these are the three. And all these things are integrated into EWS and how they are talked about. Because as I say always, it's not just about, oh, talk about the models and go away. We must know how it is integrated into the pre-scene if we are supposed to look at it. And then the last one, Rosabeth Muscanter's change management model. So according to Rosabeth Cantor, organizations or management that are focusing on change must be guided by certain principles, and those principles are also explained here. So these are some of the ideas in respect of what you need to understand when it comes to the second portion of our syllabus. Again, I have brought in some other areas, right? So the second aspect, strategic choice, those are the things that you must understand. And that is the idea about this. I'm going to wrap up around here today, okay? So that in the next session, we will go into strategy implementation, how those various issues can be handled. Then talk about governance, talk about risk, and then any other thing that I need to really highlight on, and we should be good at the end of the day. Okay? So that is it about that. Tomorrow morning, we will meet and then continue with the discussion.